self-discovery. And that also might include scheduling and timing. So, with that, life offers us an opportunity to find what our meaning is on the journey. And today, I was sharing with our special guest, Sheela, um, what that looks like in the in between. And we had such a deep conversation. Um, Hopefully, we'll bring some of those things up. But before I give my co host the floor today, I'd love to share with you a bit about her background and why she's relevant. She doesn't need anybody's validation because her presence alone is reason enough to be here. So, Sheela, welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Well, Sheela Roy, is it Ivlev or Ivlev?
Ivlev, yeah.
Ivlev is a Bengali occupational therapist committed to removing barriers that keep people from accessing mental health services. As a caregiver for family members with serious mental illness and living with anxiety, ADHD, and PTSD, her work and life are an intersection of culture, mental health, and liberation. She is a facilitator with Asian Mental Health Project and founded community-based mental health services at OT Bay Area, workplace mental health consulting at WellWorks, and Disrupt OT. We got to talk about this disruption. An international grassroots organization dedicated to disrupting the status quo in healthcare, challenging oppressive systems, building community, highlighting global voices, and providing free education to healthcare users, students, and practitioners worldwide. Y'all, please welcome a very special guest who is very active in creating freedom in so many ways. Sheela, welcome to the stage.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love that we met IRL before we really got to know each other. So that's kind of like so OG, right? Like that doesn't
Right,
happen as much anymore.
right, right. I know. I'm just grateful that because of the internet, it has given us the opportunity to connect.
hmm
Had I not known, right?
Yeah. And it's kind of beautiful. Like, yeah, we connect with people virtually and it's a wonderful thing, right? Like, so you're not alone wherever you are in the world. There are people that believe in things like you or working towards some of the same goals. But to meet somebody and then learn and kind of grow with them, right? Like we're both entrepreneurs, so we're working on similar things and impacting communities. So it's really nice to actually have that um, that connection without even recognizing what our like work histories are and what we're working towards is kind of cool.
That was so
I
cool.
don't know, it makes it stronger, right?
Yeah, I didn't even realize we had very similar
Yeah.
pathways. Just the communities we impact are up. You're up north, I'm down south, but we're still have a common goal of creating collective consciousness and awareness to help people become
Mhm.
free in whatever way that is that we operate. So
Love it.
thank you. So in our conversation about topics to discuss, you do so many things. You do so many. Uh, the first thing that I thought of was you are an activist, spiritually, mentally, physically, politically. And I don't know if you want to go into that realm or talk about a few other things. I know we labeled our podcast, our topic today as breaking generational curses. Whichever space you want to move, I'm with it, sis.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'll just talk about, you know, to me, it's all connected, right? Like we're breaking generational curses with the strength of our ancestors inside of
Mhm.
us, right? We're not leaving who we are behind, but we're leaving the shackles behind, right? Like
Mhm.
that's what it's about. And so, for me, who I am and everything I do are one and the same. I don't
Mhm.
have a professional persona,
Mhm.
and what I secretly do behind the scenes or the conversations that I have. We said this before we started recording. I am who I am, and I'm definitely fortunate enough that I recognize that since childhood. I wouldn't say it was a troublemaker, but I stirred a lot of things up and upset a lot of people, and so I describe myself as I was a loudmouth little girl. I had very strong opinions about um, things that are happening in this world, things beyond my control, um, and I haven't strayed from that.
Mhm.
And so, to me, that culturally, I'm South Asian, and so South Asian women are supposed to take a back seat. Are supposed to keep their opinions to themselves if it goes against the majority, right? You can praise, but you can't critique. That's not your place. And so
Mhm.
that has I'm fortunate that I was raised by people that allowed me to have differing opinions and that taught me to learn how to have valid arguments. But you needed to know what you were talking about if you had if you had a different opinion. So to me, that is breaking generational curses, right? I take the strength of my ancestors and my family and the values that were instilled within me, but I'm using it. To fight for a better, freer world for all of us. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's connected.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I remember sharing with her, Sheila earlier in the background where I was saying some people really don't know what that sounds like to stand within their own fortitude, in their own foundation, in their own voice. And I was sharing with her that modeling that and being able to grow up with that observation is something that people are looking for because it's something they're looking for within themselves. And her being able to live that in real time, it's just she is a archetype of what those that are needing her energy. She needs to be here for this. She needs to be here for this season at this time to show people what it looks like to stand in their power. With that said, how did you get there? I
Yeah,
know
well,
you said
first, let me receive all of that. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, I recognize how lucky I am. I recognize its privilege. I was born and raised, not just in the US, but in San Francisco, very, very liberal bubble. And so I recognize that if I was raised back home, um, that is not internally, I would be who I am, but I wouldn't have the space to
mm,
grow into who I have become. And so for various reasons, not all of us do know who we are and what we stand for. And to me, this is part of breaking those generational curses. Sometimes it's expectations, narratives within our families, sometimes it's within our society. And so if you believe a certain way, and especially if you feel strongly about it, and everybody around you sees that as wrong or bad, or there's just not space for that. Um, it's really it can be impossible, feel or actually be impossible, right? Because sometimes it can be unsafe to even voice some of that dissent, to question. things happening around you, to critique it. And so I have had the privilege to be able to speak out, to ask questions, um, to say I disagree with my government. I disagree with my teachers as a kid growing up and had no problem voicing that. Disagreed with my parents, I have to parents. I have to do it respectfully, um, and I had to come with like my reasoning. I had to do my research and present my case, if I wanted something, or if I was in disagreement and felt that something else should be happening, in my household that involved me. And so, I would say luck of where I was born and raised, and privilege of being able to do those things and still be alive, like for real, right?
No,
We're,
for
we're,
real.
we're women, and we know, what happens to women that speak up and speak out in some places. So yeah.
Wow. It's funny because I thought about like myself too. I was not born in the islands, and you weren't born over in well, I don't know if you were born, but that's where you're from. We were
Mhm.
both implanted into the United States. And yes, we're taking our ancestral roots with us, but really not the ways of what that kind of closed thinking would create. Brought here to the United States, the land of the free, to exercise maybe that for our people. I just thought that was an interesting, like,
Yeah. And if I could add a layer to it, like, now it's gonna be like I'm going way off, but to me, it's still connected. You know, I wouldn't even say that, some of the, I guess, the oppressive ways of being, within our cultures, within our community, especially our personal life of our heritage, right? I
mhm.
wouldn't even say that's necessarily who our people even are.
Mm,
If you think of how really we lived ancestrally when our people were free, because, the islands, we've all experienced some form of, not every single person, but the both of us here, some form of colonialism,
yes.
within our histories. And
Mhm.
so, sometimes it's just people pick up ways of being to survive,
Yeah.
and get through that. And so again, these, like, we are breaking those generational curses, like the shackles that were put upon our our ancestors. We're breaking past that, because if you do need to survive in communities, especially islands with, like, limited resources, you do have to work together. You do have to build community. You do have to get along. And so I would like to think that the original ways of being our people we're just coming back to that. We're coming back to real community without as much, hierarchy and exploitation and oppression.
I love that. I was actually talking to a friend of mine's who is also an activist. It's interesting. All my friends are activists.
I wonder why.
Right? And we were talking about the word community
Mm,
and what that really means, and how community shows up for us in our relationships, whether they be personal, romantic, professional. And she was saying that she had a conversation with somebody that we're associated with, who said, I love you. And like, I'll talk to you later, sis, but she doesn't have that connection with her in that way. And the associate is really more looking for attention. But she said, when we connect, I and her, we're connecting because we know at the end of the conversation that we will both be fulfilled and walked away from the conversation full
mm,
in such a emotional and mental and spiritual way. And she was like, that to me is community, not
mm,
walking away trained, not walking away where I feel like I'm carrying somebody else's burden, but we're connecting in a way where we're talking about like ideas to actually come to a solution, to help us move forward. I might have the puzzle that you need to move in your next puzzle piece, and vice versa. And she's like, that's the community that I seek, that I long for. And I really think what you were just talking about, yeah, it is connecting us on a real, I don't know if it's raw, subtle, or basic, or I don't know what the right word is. But community is definitely something of connection where the ways that we've been shown to quote unquote create a community, like you said, may not have been like a deeply connected way to create roots for us to move forward collectively.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that sense of community is inherently within us,
Mm,
but the examples that we see and what we've experienced make it hard for what we feel inside to be expressed. What you were sharing, actually, the work I do in Disrupt OT kind of formed from that. This is like grassroots. I make no money, don't intend to make any money from it. It is just people are doing amazing community work, giving them a platform and letting others learn from it. What I've found is what happened and what I continue to do is I'm just meeting and connecting with people for the sake of just being
mm,
in space, just being, sharing space, being in community. And from that, like with no expectation, no thoughts of taking anything from them, like no exploitation, no, I would say this is a very judgmental word, but I can't think of anything else. Like there's no selfishness to it. I'm not trying to gain anything from it. I'm just going into it as myself,
mm,
and just openly being me, giving and receiving whatever that person is willing to offer. And you like so much sparks from that. And that's what I heard in that conversation with your friend, that you mentioned, is like when you're just being yourself, not trying to take anything from anyone. You just, for the sake of, I want to be connected to another person in our humanity.
yeah.
Beautiful things happen. You realize that you do share maybe mutual goals, and you might work on a project together, or you might solve some kind of problem, um, because you came in just open to receive versus having that narrow mindset of, I'm here because I need this from this person. Then
Mhm.
you don't see the beauty in that person, all their potential and all that can happen. So yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that is in our DNA, right? We have generations of our ancestry just in us, and we just need to unlock it, set it free, because we're not used to seeing that in the spaces. I would say almost every single one of us lives in, wherever we are in the world. There are, there are economies, right? Yeah, it's culture, but there are also economies. We need something from someone. We need
Mm,
labor from someone. We need something from someone in order to continue. Then it just becomes transactional.
mm,
Um, and and I don't think that is innate within us. I think these are systems that are built, but not true to who we are. I don't know
mm.
if that was too much,
No,
too
don't.
abstract.
No, because it's interesting because I was at a Toastmaster meeting, and one of the ladies that just joined, she was like, oh my God, she's already a part of another Toastmasters club, but she was like, oh, there's something about this club that has this energy. I don't know what it is. And I said, well, you've already heard the quote, you are the average of the 5 people that you hang around, but that also includes energy. So I feel that as we continue to create these communities that have this energy, it's just going to spark in some way. So I think it's all irrelevant. It's all relevant. It all makes sense. I didn't think it was abstract.
I know, because it's like, okay, well, what do I do with that information? Just feel it.
just be with it. Oh my God. Like, how did you get into your work? Like, how did you
Yeah.
I know you said that it started from a conversation, but, like, what was the conversation? I mean, if that's something that you wanna share that sparked this, and then that sparked that to where this is.
Yeah. I mean, if I could go further back, I mean, I would say just childhood, I say going home, even though I was born in the US, going back home. My family's from India, like Bengal region. There's a colonial history that, there's two different countries, but we're from the same region. But just seeing the stark contrast of poverty,
Mm,
and suffering, and then some people with like the opposite on the opposite ends of having too much, while you see, I would see kids my age, younger than me, barefoot, distended bellies, hungry,
mm,
no electricity, no clean running water, and so there was always something inside of me that recognized what I have and what my own people don't, that made me always feel like I needed to do something with my life
mm,
that involved helping people, not just myself. And so I had a journey. California is expensive, San Francisco is expensive. So I eventually, had different careers and eventually decided to go into healthcare. But medicine is not meant for everyone. It was not built for everyone. The medicine that we practice, modern medicine that we practice, not just in the US, was based on the white male body. And so, having had a life, having had careers before I went back to school to become an occupational therapist, it was, and I've always just been somebody who challenged stuff. Like, I'm not going to take, I'm not going to take anybody's word for it. I want more information. Um, it didn't make sense. A lot didn't apply. Culture was very clearly removed from the factor, right? Like, our bodies, yeah, there's kind of a general way that we operate, but there's so much more, right? Um, look at our insurance system in the US, right? Your teeth, your eyes, your mental health, and your physical body are separate. And it's like, no, none of us walk around with
right,
with our
right.
ourselves not disconnected. And so, so I just, I recognized that there was a lot missing. And so, um, I would say, for me, probably for a lot of people, the impetus was the murdering of George Floyd,
Mm,
and just the utter silence from, communities that recognize the harms of racism, of systemic racism. And so, I like, this is ridiculous. I got on Twitter, and I had avoided it because I knew it was toxic. But I had gone on it, and I just happened to connect with healthcare providers from different parts of the world, and I just wanted to, like I said, just wanted to connect with no intentions in mind. Just hadn't met people from doing what I do professionally in Palestine and Ghana and Uganda, in Brazil, and just wanted to know what their life and their work was like. And
mm,
I recognized that people were doing amazing, beautiful healing work for their communities with very little resources,
wow.
under extreme, political constraints. And we live in a land of abundance. And so, how are people with less resources and funding than us able to help their communities? And we're here with our hands up saying, oh, we can't because of X, Y, and Z, or we can't afford it. And no, we can afford it. We can figure out a way. And so that's kind of how that started. But I would say I've always wanted to help. I've always wanted to heal. And I've always, asked questions.
I love it. I mean, I think sometimes it's not sometimes, we have to be exposed to different things in order for us
Mhm.
to realize, oh, this is moving me in a way. And I
Mm.
don't know why. I don't know what the reason is, but I feel very drawn. Earlier we were talking about energy, like certain things that they just pull us. And I feel like if we listen to the pull of what that is telling us, it'll take us down deeper to what our own why is. And sometimes that doesn't need explanation, it just needs curiosity.
Mhm.
You said it earlier, just look it in.
But I mean, yeah, what you said is it. When you are exposed to diversity of thought, diversity of experiences, creativity sparks because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't know, and so your worldview, your tools, your way of solving problems, the way you see the world, what you see is very limited in scope. And then when you start meeting people that have different experiences than you, if you are receptive, if you are open to it, then you start to see what they see, and then all those things infinitely multiply.
That expansion of energy, baby.
Mhm. Mhm.
Thank you for sharing that. Um, you mentioned something inside of your bio about living with anxiety, ADHD, and PTSD. Could you share a bit more about that? What that looks like in a day for you, and then
Yeah.
how that comes out for you in impacting the community.
Well, I would say, 1, I have lived with much of that, PTSD is a little different, but, most of my life, I just didn't recognize it, even while working in mental health. So, um, I would say I have to put this out there because it was my experience, but I think it it speaks to a lot of people's experiences in that, we experience, especially, like, emotional health, um, issues differently depending on our cultures, how we were raised, what are the things that you talked about in your family, and so I never realized I had anxiety,
Mm,
until I started seeing, a therapist because of the life situations that I was going through. So, I and I probably there were probably other things I could have seen a therapist for, but didn't even think about it. So it was, I was going through a divorces when I first started seeing, the therapist. So I was in my, I like, late 20s, late 20s, early 30s is when I started seeing a therapist, and I was also going through, OT school, and so I didn't recognize that the kind of nervous feeling in my stomach meant anxiety. The not being able to fall asleep and worrying about things and thinking about things for hours upon hours upon hours after the lights were out and I was laying in bed,
mm,
um, was anxiety. My ADHD, again, as an occupational therapist who works with a lot of adults that have new ADHD diagnoses, I didn't get diagnosed until later in life when it was getting harder for me to keep track of things, and I was
mm,
making a lot of mistakes, with just like missing things in paperwork and emails. Um, and I went back and looked. I always thought I did pretty well in school. Usually for many of us Asians growing up, there's a lot of pressure, especially with parents, yeah, with immigrant parents. You have to do well in school. It's just not even an option.
right.
So one of my family members dropped off this like box of a bunch of stuff. It had like my report cards and stuff in it, like the notes from teachers. And I was reading through. I was like, I had ADHD. Like, what? I didn't like. What was I like? What was I telling myself? I did well, but I struggled. There were certain things that that were hard for me. And so again, this goes back to like who's being diagnosed with things, who our medical systems are meant for. And it's not people like us who present differently. I wasn't, for ADHD, it's like if you're running up on furniture and jumping off of it constantly or something like that, that type of hyperactivity. But when you are taught to act right, because that's how you are in school, in public, because you're not going to embarrass your parents. Some of us were raised with certain expectations of our behavior in public, but you're still struggling with that attention, remembering things. And, my hyperactivity is more of a thought process than me physically, physically having that energy. And so, I'm still working through it. I'm still discovering it. I guess I have been kind of OTing myself my whole life, but with age, as everything is catching up to me, it's just harder to manage. So for me, it's being okay with, I am going back and not in regret, like, oh, I had these things and I wish I got help and my life would have been this way. No, it just is what it is. But like, what can I do now to help educate people so they can get help sooner, so they can see that, okay, I might not meet the very clear diagnostic criteria that would make a teacher go, hey, or a pediatrician go, hey, parent, get your kid diagnosed. Your kid could benefit from X, Y, and Z. And, like for me, it's like sharing my experiences while I'm on that healing journey for myself. I'm every day trying to take better care of myself, and figure out what I need. And, the work that I do is not similar to the work anybody else is doing in how they're providing healing services, because I've been in therapy for over 10 years, and it hasn't always been great experiences. I haven't always made progress despite really trying, because it's just not, it wasn't made for me, right? It was made for certain people. So as I figure out what can be helpful towards me, open up those options to others and educate them that there are different ways to heal yourself, and community is a big part of it, right?
Yeah. I mean, if you think about back in the days, like if you had a problem, you would go to the elders and they would help you address that. I mean, the wisdom of those that are older than us is definitely helpful. I think about how, when people want to get to a certain place, whatever, if it's Starbucks, if you want to walk, you can. If you want to drive, you can. If you want to take the bike, you can. There are different options for everybody. And I'm writing this speech where I talk about, I would love to say that I'm here to teach mastery, but I'm still in the middle of my stuff. And what that looks like is me teaching, but yet still listening. And I think if we are more have an acceptance of the process, like what you're talking about, the being in the middle of this transition or in the middle of the healing is like really the journey of where we learn and become armed with the resources that we need to be successful for the next step, and not rushing through that process. So thank you for sharing that with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. I feel like, didn't even mention all the stigma around diagnoses. There's a culture in the US of, owning some of the labels, owning some of the diagnoses, but that's not for everyone. That's not for every diagnosis. And so, for me, not, people should be allowed to disclose whatever they want to, right? None of us should force that out of anybody. But again, I do have privilege to be able to do so. And so I feel like sharing that part of me helps me, but also helps the people that I am serving, whether it's a client that I'm working with or just somebody who happens to hear me talking in passing.
Yeah, it goes back to you being that archetype for people really needing to know who they are. You also give them this vulnerability, that it's okay to be a professional and be vulnerable. Is your business going to shut down? No. If anything, you're connecting to the human part of this professional, which is very much in need. Because in corporate, they tell you to leave your problems at home. Bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, we can't there's no physical way to compartmentalize yourself. It's not real. Some people may appear to be better at it than others, but yeah, you still carry yourself with you wherever you go. So,
Yeah, what are you gonna do? Leave that at home? You
yeah.
just can't. You can't do that. You can compartmentalize, but that weight of whatever that emotional event that occurred is still going to be with you. Like when you go to work, right? Like you'll see maybe somebody that is usually a cheery person, and all of a sudden their energy changes. You have the wherewithal to see that there's an energy shift in this person. That obviously something happened. And it's up to us whether we want to help connect them to help facilitate that, whatever they're feeling, or just be with them in the space.
Yeah. I mean, you said a couple of very, very important things and, especially as business owners and this is a bit of a privileged take, but it's also real and it's more than just business. When you really are your true authentic self, you might actually lose some business. And that can be in friendships as well, right? You might lose some friends.
Yeah.
But those that stick around, those that seek you out because of who you are, those are your people, and I think that is really important. And like if you're authentic, then you're serving the people that you're going to best impact well. And then the people that drop off, likely it just wasn't a good fit, and that's okay. It when you can feel really good about, they're gonna go find their people, but I have found my people, and my people have found me, whatever it is. It's a really beautiful, powerful thing. I don't know, there's no shame in that loss. It just is what it is, and it's better for you, and it's better for those people. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to, um, when we're in passing as we go to a grocery store, we may talk to some people and we may not. It is just, it's the journey, it's the in between, it's the living, it's the being, it's the doing. And when we're okay with just having that particular transaction, maybe the point of that transaction was just to smile and say hi. Maybe it was just to acknowledge a person if you've seen them in the store and they're wearing a nice outfit. Who knows what your presence brought to that person? But just know that wherever you go, you spark something. And it doesn't have to be verbal. Sometimes the body uh, speaks the language that we can't verbalize.
Yeah, I love that, and that was the last piece you were saying as well at work or and then what you just added, like wherever you are, it's that like just being human, when we ignore that somebody is human or that they may be suffering, um, that to me is one of the worst things that you can do. So, we're not we're not here to be everybody's therapists. Most of us aren't qualified. And most people didn't ask us to be, but the bare minimum that we're all qualified to do is just to be human and see the humanness in others.
Yeah.
It's not that complicated.
No, it really isn't. Well, we are rolling up on our 45 minutes. And is there something that you want to share with the community? What you're doing, What aren't you doing?
I'm like, where do we start? How much time do we have?
5 minutes.
No, I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay.
I'm just saying because I do it a little too much. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I have a QA background. I will say, okay, so I'm gonna take this and I'll apply it to me. The systems that we operate in, I would say the shit that we have been through, um, there are things that you can learn. There are things that you can borrow,
Mm,
and when we're breaking generational curses, we don't have to leave everything that we were and that we learned behind. It's about leaving the stuff that holds you back behind, leaving the stuff that hurts you behind, and hanging on to or borrowing the things that work. And so, for me, I have a QA background, and so I see things from systems, but I also deeply connect with individuals. And so everything that I have done, going back to school, becoming an occupational therapist, I still do one-on-one services. Um, and then I started doing consulting because I saw that there was a bigger need.
mm,
And then I do the grassroots work to teach students and teach clinicians how to learn about other cultures, how to learn about providing better care to people that aren't like you. And for me, I just keep building on what I'm doing because I see this is working. Now, how can more people benefit? How can more people care? How can more people heal? And so, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's what I'm doing. I think I'm trying to do.
I think you're doing. I think you're doing and being present while you're doing. So I think that's one of the things that we're missing, which is why you're here, is to show people how to be present while you're doing. So thank you.
Thank you.
Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say probably OT Bay Area
Okay.
is the easiest. So on the socials, it's OT Bay Area, or my website is otbayarea.com. So you can just reach out, shoot me a message. I take some time because it's just me, but I will get back to people if you have questions, if you want to connect, if you want to heal, if you want your community, your workplace to heal. I'm happy to share resources or work with you.
Okay. Um, what do you have coming up where people can connect? Do you have like what events do you got going on so that they can connect
Oh
with you?
gosh. Okay. Let's see, it's starting in May, I believe. So this summer, we're starting new season of Asian Mental Health Project actually has lots of different groups going on. So the one of the most accessible spaces would be the groups that Asian Mental Health Project does. Um, obviously it is an affinity group, so it's not accessible to everybody, but it's free. So we'll be starting up a new season of facilitation of our group for caregivers, activists, organizers, and healing professionals. That's going to start up in May. So follow Asian Mental Health Project. You'll see there's a ton of resources there. And then the events that I have coming up that I'm doing are a lot more like private, where I'm scheduled to be doing specific events, but I what I've been doing a lot of is sensory based wellness, and so I would love, I would just say just reach out, and I can let you know what's going on, or can help you do something like that for your community in providing ways to heal with things, so that it's accessible to everybody, regardless of their language or if they have language available to them. So healing in ways throughout the day that's easy to do, using your nervous system.
Mm,
So yes, I wish I had more public events, but most of what I'm doing is like one-on-one or private group events. So
I got to tell you about Human Garage if you don't already know.
yeah, no, I don't know.
Yay! Okay. All right. I know there's one more thing I was gonna ask. What was it? Oh, if you had a quote that you either live by or you'd love to share, please share what that quote is and then why it's valuable to you.
Okay. I am the worst person with remembering quotes. I don't even remember movies that I saw 5 minutes ago.
Paraphrase.
Yes, there is this beautiful quote. I'm gonna comment it in the chat because I don't want to mess it up. But it is a quote by an Aboriginal leader about community and about like working together, and like I'm not going to mess it up because I'm not the kind of person that remembers quotes or lines from movies. Like that is, I know what I'm good at, and that's just not one of them. I'm okay with that. So I'm going to come back and I am going to copy and paste it so it is done right and gets the respect it deserves.
Okay. All right. So she's not going to share. Right.
No, that's just not something I'm good at. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Well, Sheela, I really appreciate your energy and not just during while we were on air and prior to that. Thank you for being in community with me. Thank you for the work that you're doing. If nobody has told you recently, thank you for touching the lives of the people that you do and for being active in that. So thank you for knowing what your why is so other people can know theirs. So I appreciate you being here today, and thanks for joining me on Fran and Friends.
Thank you, Fran.
Welcome. Will you enjoy your day and that granola bar?